All right, now we're in Modo, and this is the model of the wand, obviously, and it is a sub D model that I just took a little bit of time to. That was a lot of fun to build this. This was as much fun as the actual building of the painting in post in Photoshop. But anyway, what I did is I brought in the image map of the bubble wand, and I used it as a guide to actually build the geometry. So I built the geometry around the art. I felt like that would be a better workflow than to do it the other way around. But you could have done it either way. It just doesn't really matter. That's just how it made sense to me visually and workflow wise or whatever to work. To implement. Anyway, so applying the displacement map was very easy. What was tricky was and if there is a trick, it's just the file preparation. There's the file preparation of the map in Photoshop, and I'll hop over there in just a second to show you. But creating a displacement map is very simple. If you know the mechanics of it, it's nothing really. You just have to play with the high value and the low value to get the amount of displacement that you want. And that took a little bit of noodling around, creating a lower value, something lower than 100, maybe like negative 50 or negative 100, and then a positive, a high value of say plus 150 or plus 200, and that is going to be dependent completely on your model and the amount of detail that's in your map, and that's something that really is just something that you're going to have to kind of experiment with, like I did. Let me just show you a little bit more about the actual map that I created. Ignore that. Now, you can see that now I'm in Photoshop, and the edges of everything has been blurred a little bit, and that's on purpose, because what you don't want, and it's been my experience, that when you bring in a map from another program like Photoshop into Modo to create a displacement, if you have a really hard edge, you're just going to get some ugly lines, and some of those ridges are going to be very exaggerated. So let me back up one step and say that if you did what I did, create your map in Illustrator, and then you export that to a Photoshop format, or you just cut and paste it within Photoshop, you want to create that image to be as big as you can, within reason. The bigger means the more pixels, and this is within Photoshop. The more pixels that you have, just the more information that you'll have. So potential problems are, if you get in real close here, you see that to displace, you get black, which will be in one direction, typically positive, and then white will be in the other direction, talking about displacement now. White will be in the other direction and typically negative. And of course you can reverse those, it doesn't really matter. But the point is that when you get in here, you can see this is not white or black, it's gray. And so you're going to have a potential problem there, as well as some of these other things. Now this will blend. Now displacement is all based on pixel, my understanding, based on pixel color, so or value rather. Black being 100%, white being 0%, and you can play with those values just like I was talking about. And that's the whole thing, is that if you have less information and your image is pixelated because it's a lower resolution, say like 72 dpi or something, this is again the pixel dimension, or the image size on this particular model, this particular image that I'm using for the map. When I brought this in from Illustrator, it was very not pixelated, but it was very sharp. Just using a Gaussian blur to, and that's a Photoshop. If you know Photoshop, you know what I'm saying. But if you're new to Photoshop, or that doesn't make sense to you, it's just a way to blur pixels in an automated fashion. So if I have, let's say, this layer selected, and I go to, I'll just show you real quick, I go to Gaussian blur, I have some options, okay, and I can set the pixel, how many pixels do you want blurred, you can see that just through that slider, and I'm going to cancel out, but you can see now all of a sudden, this, that's too close, all of a sudden you get a lot of information here that's gray, and that will, if you think in terms of height, it'll be somewhere in the middle of, not white, not black, not high or low. It's going to be somewhere in the middle, and that may or may not be the effect you're going for. A difference is, look down here. Now I knew that I didn't want, now this is through trial and error. I put these on separate layers too, which was helpful to help separate that out. See these bubbles that are, it's a subtle detail that's on the actual artwork you see here, and you could take it or leave it. Those were a little disappointing, to be honest, the bubbles, but whatever. It wasn't a big part of the illustration. The lettering I wanted to be a little bit lower in height than the ridge. I wanted the ridge to be a little bit higher, and so that's why the ridge is a little bit darker, because I knew that that's the area. I mean, it's displacing in the same direction. It's just not displacing as much as the black. So the gray is not displacing as much as the black. And again, it's blurred because I wanted a softer edge, a softer transition between high and low. And that's how you get it. That's the secret is, the more information the more pixels. I could be wrong, but the more pixels that you have here, the more visual information that you have here, and when that translates very well into Modo, because Modo will grab that information and will do something with it. That being, if you have what I mean by that is that if you have an image that is very pixelated and very hard edged, unlike the softness of this map, then now understand this video is making this, the quality of this video is making these maps look a little pixelated, but they're not. They're pretty smooth for what they are. But my point is that if you have an image that is real pixelated or real hard edged, you're going to get that ugly kind of banding, that ugly kind of these artifacts that go on in here. And I probably could have made this map a little higher resolution to eliminate some of these ugly ridges. But the reason I kept it is that how clean it looks on the outside, and just for the most part, so it looks pretty sweet like that. So I was really pleased that actually worked out. Now, so that's kind of the general idea and workflow. I think the secret is just with your map. You have to spend some time and a considerable amount of experimenting, depending on your models. If it's going to be a real organic piece, it's going to be a lot different than a hard surfaced model like this. So you're going to get some different results. But if you'll just kind of keep track of your progress and what works and what doesn't, I mean, literally write it down on paper. You'll build up a bank of things that work and things that don't work, and you'll have some successes with it for sure. But anyway, so I think that's it. If you have any other questions or whatever, you can email me. My website's on my Modo profile, and just go by my website and email me or whatever. And if there's something that I missed, just let me know. I'm happy to fill in the gaps. So anyway, thanks guys. I appreciate your interest, and that's it. See you next time.